Okay, cool. So the first thing I want to talk about is, or the first thing I want to mention is this isn't going to be like a strategy session. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys what you need to be taking and how much of it you need to be taking. Actually, quite the opposite, to be honest with you. The main purpose for this video is to kind of point out a perspective on PEDs that you're probably not getting on social media, which is what you're typically going to hear on social media is what you need to take for what reason and what dosage. And the problem with that concept and the problem with that thinking is the fact that that's just kind of a one size fits all approach, which is fine because if you're just posting arbitrarily on social media, you're not talking to one individual, you're talking to however many individuals happen to see that post. The problem is it just gets lost in translation. People are kind of like, I need to be taking retatrutide in 3 milligrams per week because this person who's a peptide expert, whatever that means, by the way, said that that's what is the best practice. And the fact of the matter is that's not, that might be the case for that person. And that might even be the case for 3 of the 5 people that that person has on his team that he's using retatrutide with. But the fact of the matter is, like, everybody has an individual response to every drug, both from a side effects perspective and from like a, you know, perspective. So let me see. I got some people already saying some stuff. What's my opinion on peptides or specific ones you see benefit? So I think all of them have benefits. I'm a big fan of peptides. Let me be clear about that in the beginning. Peptides are great. It's just that not everybody needs every single one of them. And in fact, not everybody needs any of them. And I think that's the problem is all these compounding pharmacies and different brands are popping up out of nowhere. And the message to everybody is that you need to be taking peptides. They're amazing. They're miraculous. And you need to be taking lots of them. And if you have this totally normal issue, you need to be taking this one. And if it causes this issue, then you also need to be taking this one. And the next thing you know, you're being recommended like 14 peptides. And at the end of the day, you may not have any issue that needs to be solved by a peptide. So that's kind of the reason I wanted to get into all this. So let's see what else I got here. Check out Steroid T-shirt company. Okay. BPC TB500 has been such a game changer. It's been a game changer for me too. For my knees, holy shit, it's made all the difference in the world for me. Appreciate your knowledge. Thank you. So we'll just start with peptides because it seems like that's what everybody wants to talk about these days. And that's the fact. And to be clear, I'm certainly no expert on peptides. I'm just not. I know a little bit here and there. You know, a lot of the research I'm doing is in real time, which is the case, by the way, for a lot of the people, the content creators that you see posting about peptides. Most of them are learning about peptides 5 minutes before they make the posts that you're seeing. And if they're really good at posting, they're going to sound like they've been researching this stuff in a lab their entire life. And good for them. I'm not even saying the information is bad. I'm just saying that I don't think there are any peptide experts at the moment. There's just a lot of information going around about it because that's what's trending. That it's just a really, really popular topic. Do they work? Fuck yeah, they work. Of course they work. You know, Jono alluded to it right there in the chat that he's using BPC and TB 500. It's amazing. I mean, the stuff's amazing when you have the issue that needs to be solved. So I'm going to tell a quick little story that technically has nothing to do with PEDs at all, but I'll bring it all together so that you'll understand the purpose of it. So, Jono, I'll get to your question in a little bit though, I promise. Long time ago, 2016 is when I got my official diagnosis for sleep apnea. And to be clear, it was bad, real bad. I have like severe, borderline life-threatening sleep apnea. Just to give you guys an idea, before I started using a CPAP and before my diagnosis, I was sleeping an average of 55 seconds at a time before I would have breathing disruptions, gasp for air, wake up, catch my breath, and then fall back asleep every 55 seconds on average every single night, no matter what. I was having 67 interruptions per minute. Per hour, 67 interruptions per hour to my sleep. So I was getting zero sleep quality. My REM cycles were not happening ever. I was chronically exhausted every single day of my life. I would wake up, I'd sleep till like 11 a.m. Sometimes later, I'd sleep till noon sometimes. Thankfully, working for myself, I was like able to kind of get away with it, although I was incredibly unproductive. Um, and anyway, long story short, I'd had people for years tell me like, dude, I think you have sleep apnea. It's really bad. If I'm sharing a hotel room with someone, or like my ex, we lived together, and she would sleep in the other room sometimes because she's like, dude, your snoring is so bad. And then it's really distracting because I'll wake up from your snoring and then you'll stop breathing and it freaks me out. And I don't know whether or not to wake you up. And then you'll literally gasp for air as if you've been underwater and start that cycle. And I did that all night, every single night, every day of my life. And I'm not saying this to get empathy in any kind of way, but I went to a sleep specialist, essentially, did a sleep study, got diagnosed, and they were like, dude, this is really, really severe. We need to treat this immediately or you're going to have serious issues. So we did. And now I have, since then, for the last almost 10 years now, I've had a CPAP that I sleep with every night. Anyway, CPAPs got really popular, and not because of me. And I'm not claiming that I had anything to do with that popularity, but in bodybuilding, people started hearing about other bodybuilders that started using a CPAP and their life changed. Muscles started growing better. They started getting leaner, easier. They felt better. Their workouts were more productive. They're recovering better. Blah. It's better than any PED. And that was the case for me. And it's true. Like when I got my CPAP, it was like, holy shit, dude, my whole life is completely better. I wake up in the morning and I feel like I slept all night. Holy shit. I didn't know this was even a thing. I have a buddy who had it just about as bad as me, and he was falling asleep at red lights. Like he'd stop at a red light and doze off because he just was getting zero sleep. So yeah, having something that corrects that medical issue made all the difference in the world. I started building more muscle a lot easier. I was getting leaner when I was dieting a lot easier. I felt better. I slept better. Sex drive was better. All of these different things improved. But here's the thing. I have really severe sleep apnea. So it helped me because it corrected a really bad medical issue. And so bodybuilders, random bodybuilders on social media would hear about other bodybuilders. Sleep apnea is pretty common in bodybuilders, although I had it almost certainly long, long before I was ever a bodybuilder. But the bigger and heavier you are, particularly around your chest, the worse it compresses your airways and you're unable to breathe in your sleep when your muscles relax so much more. So anyway, they hear about bodybuilders using CPAPs and getting way better results in the gym, and it's better than PEDs. And then they're all like, well, shit, I guess I need a CPAP. And then guys were like going online and buying CPAPs without ever going to the doctor and being diagnosed with sleep apnea. And guess what? If you don't have sleep apnea, a CPAP does zero for you. As a matter of fact, it can actually make things much, much worse for you. It can elevate your heart rate to a degree that's really bad. It can make your blood pressure get worse. It can interrupt your sleep cycles really, really badly. So just because you heard a bunch of bodybuilders use the CPAP and they got better results, the reason they got better results after getting the CPAP is because they had sleep apnea. Now, the reason I bring this up is because we're treating PEDs, dosages of PEDs, and peptides the same way. People are like, so-and-so is losing fat a lot faster because they're using retatrutide. I need to use retatrutide because I'd like to lose fat faster. And it's like, okay, but like what were the other conditions that original person was under that made them decide to use retatrutide or tirzepatide or any GLP-1? And the fact of the matter is, like, if you simply just want to take an injection that makes you leaner, retatrutide, tirzepatide, Ozempic, Wegovy, none of those do that. The main mechanism of action is they make you less hungry. So if it's just a matter of like, I want something to make me leaner, it's not going to necessarily do that. It's just going to make you less hungry. And yes, it can improve gut health and stuff. But again, people hear improved gut health, improved digestion, which leads to better nutrient uptake and better metabolic health and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, true. Do you have issues with that though? And the answer for like 99% of people is no, they don't. They don't have gut health issues. Gut health issues are really not a common thing, at least for people with appropriate dieting habits, like good food hygiene. People, yes. So think about America as a whole. Like 70% of America is obese. That means that 70% of America is overeating. And what are most Americans who are overeating using as food options, a bunch of processed bullshit, and too much of it. To be clear, I don't even have a problem with processed foods if you eat an appropriate amount. If you can eat a serving size of Oreos, which by the way is 2 Oreos, there's nothing wrong with Oreos. My point is, if you're eating an entire bag of Oreos every day, yeah, you're going to have gut health issues. Your problem is not that you need retatrutide to fix your gut health issues. Your problem is you just need to eat appropriately. And then the gut health issues go away, and you also lose the fat that you're trying to lose as a result of using the retatrutide. You didn't need retatrutide, and retatrutide did not make you leaner. Eating an appropriate number of calories is what made you leaner. And yes, retatrutide made that easier by making you not as hungry, but you didn't have an issue. That's why I think that a lot of this stuff gets blown out of proportion, is the messaging is all wrong. People are like, retatrutide makes you lean. Well, no, retatrutide makes you less hungry, which then makes it easier for you to eat in a calorie deficit, and therefore you got lean. And like, well, yeah, but it also improves gut health and insulin sensitivity. Yeah, and 90% of the gut health improvement you're going to see is a result of eating less total calories and eating more nutrient-dense foods. Same thing with the insulin sensitivity. Like, you can look at any data on insulin sensitivity. When you're not eating, it's just like intermittent fasting. Everyone's like, it improves insulin sensitivity. Yeah, because you're not eating. You go long windows without eating, you're going to be very insulin sensitive. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. And it's the same thing with retatrutide or tirzepatide or any GLP-1. You're going to eat less food. And by eating less food, you will inherently become more insulin sensitive. So do you need the GLP-1, or do you just hear that the GLP-1 resulted in really, really good results and then want to use the GLP-1? That's the question that needs to be answered. Because at the end of the day, like, if you have a normal appetite, to be clear, guys, if you're in a calorie deficit, even if it's a small one, your appetite is going to increase. That's how the human body works. When you're in a calorie deficit, you produce a higher amount of ghrelin. Ghrelin is a neurotransmitter that signals to your brain that you're hungry. It encourages you to seek and find and consume food to thwart starvation. Got to keep in mind, guys, like, we weren't created in the AI era. Humans have existed for 250,000 years, arguably a little bit more than that. 250,000 years ago, these neurotransmitters were incredibly important because you would otherwise literally starve to death. We still have that today. And so if you're eating in a calorie deficit, even if it's a small one, your appetite is going to increase to account for that. Same thing in the opposite direction. If you're eating in a big calorie surplus, your appetite is going to go down. You're not going to be as hungry. So when you're dieting, you should expect to be a little bit hungrier. Does that mean you need a GLP-1 to fix the food noise? Not necessarily. No, rarely is that necessary. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out about peptides in general. That's one of a million of them out there. But that's probably, any GLP-1 right now has become like the hottest topic on social media and the most common thing, not only just in society, but it's become a lot, it's become very popular in, bodybuilding circles with things like retatrutide. To be clear, I have clients that use retatrutide. I'm not against retatrutide. I just don't recommend it or put people on it unless I see a legitimate reason why it would be uniquely beneficial. And it's the same way with any PED, right? I just had a conversation with a client. He's pretty young. He's very new to PEDs. To be clear, he started using them before we started working together. And part of the reason he wanted to hire me is to make sure that he had proper guidance with PEDs. And I love the fact that he was like perfectly responsible with this. He knew he was going to start. He knew what he was getting himself into. He did some research, talked to his family. Everybody's on board. And then he wanted proper guidance to make sure that he did it in a healthy way. And one of the things that he noticed, we started off on just moderate dose of testosterone, right? Firm believer, always will be. And I will preach till the day I die, minimum effective dose. If you're using any drug or any supplement or anything, start with a minimum effective dose. Minimum effective dose could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So that's why I'm not going to sit here and tell you what dosage you need or what minimum effective dose means, because that could mean different things to different people. So in his case, it was just, I think, for what he's trying to do, he wants to be a pro bodybuilder. So we started him off on 500 milligrams of testosterone, which is very, it's like a moderate dose for sure. And that's it, just testosterone. And he was thinking or he asked the question. He's like, what if we dropped my dose of testosterone down a little bit and threw in other compounds? And I understood where he was coming from, because I was in this boat too. When I was younger, I wanted to try every steroid, because who knows? You know, your mind starts telling you, okay, well, I've never tried this. What if I try this and it's the thing that puts me over the top? There's all these other people out there that are way bigger than me. How did they get there? Maybe it's because they used this drug and I haven't tried that one yet. Therefore, I want to try it because that might be the thing that's going to put me over the top, and my body's going to respond really well to that, better than the other stuff that I've tried. And therefore, I'm going to get really big if I just throw this other drug in there. It's not really how it works. There is no steroid that's that much more effective than any other steroid when it comes to muscle building or I mean, especially fat loss. There are specific, you know, prescription fat burners, T3, clenbuterol, stuff like that definitely burn a lot of fat, and there's variable levels of how much you're going to get from it. But with steroids, like the most common one you hear about on social media is tren. I think everybody that probably tunes into this live has heard of tren, whether you're a guy or a girl, and you probably have some kind of opinion on it because of stuff that you've heard on social media about it. You know, tren tends to be the most popular thing that gets talked about. I'm not really sure why, to be honest with you, because there's really nothing that special about tren. It's not any more dangerous than any other drug. It's not really any more effective than any other drug. It might have a very mild, like, androgenic effect that might allow you to build a little bit more muscle. But here's the thing. Everything about any PED is extremely dose dependent. So you have to determine, like, when people say tren makes you really angry and aggressive, is it the tren that's doing that, or is it the dosage that they're using that's causing that? I had a conversation with another guy that I'm working with this year that's doing a pro qualifier, and he's going to have a real good chance of actually getting it. And he's used tren before, and he's like, man, people always talk about, you know, tren causing issues with sleep, like sleep disruption. He's like, I've never noticed that. And I was like, what dose do you use? He was like, I use 50 milligrams twice a week. And I was like, that's why, because you use an appropriate dose. You use a low dose of tren, you're not going to have all these crazy side effects people are talking about. But if you use 1,000 milligrams, literally 10 times what he's using. And by the way, I personally know people who used 1,000 milligrams, 10 times the dose he was using, and you're going to see some serious fucking side effects. That's not because tren has unique side effects. It's because you're using an astronomical dose of it. And you could say the same thing about any PED. If you abuse it and just use an obscene dose of it, yeah, you're going to get crazy side effects. Of course you fucking are. That's how this works. It's the same thing with testosterone. You hear people talk about testosterone makes you aggressive. And it's like, how much testosterone are we referring to? Because if you're just using TRT prescribed by your doctor, it's the same testosterone bodybuilders are using, just in a dose that puts you into physiological ranges. You're not going to notice any aggression. You're just going to be a healthier version of yourself, frankly. You might actually have some, like, sex drive and some motivation, and maybe be able to maintain strength and muscle mass and not deteriorate like an old person, because your testosterone is in appropriate ranges. But if I use testosterone, aka put myself in 10 times the dose necessary to be in super physiological ranges, yeah, I bet you're going to be aggressive. I bet. When you're using 10 times the amount of a drug that a normal human being could ever produce naturally, yeah, you're probably going to notice some side effects. And that's the case for any one of these drugs. And again, bodybuilding and social media specifically have, like, really muddied the waters with this stuff, because people are assuming that you have to take these astronomical doses of PEDs in order to see results. And it's just simply not true. The other fact of the matter is, what rate should you actually be noticing the benefits? Like, if you're put it this way, you can grow too fast. That is a thing. It is possible to build too much muscle too fast. Because if you're building too much muscle too fast, it's probably going to come with an astronomical amount of side effects that are going to screw up your health so much that it's going to screw up everything else. Your sleep quality is probably going to be diminished. Imagine how healthy you're going to be if you're not sleeping well. And again, go back to the beginning of this video. I can tell you what it's like. It's fucking miserable when your sleep is legitimately disrupted. And you can do that by taking too much stuff, too many PEDs. On the flip side of that, if you're using too much stuff to where your sleep is being impaired and you're not recovering because your sleep is impaired, is it worth using that dose of the drug? Is that drug really helping you grow that much that now you just don't even need to sleep and recover from your workouts? No, that means you need less, right? If you're taking so many injections that your muscles are constantly super sore and inflamed and red and hot and everything hurts all the time, how effective do you think your workouts are going to be? Not at all. So if you're literally taking enough PEDs to impair your ability to train, I'm sorry, you're taking too much and you won't grow as much as you would taking lower doses. If you're taking so much stuff that your appetite gets destroyed, if you're in the middle of your off season, and you're unable to get down maintenance calories or slightly above because you're taking so much stuff that your appetite gets ruined, specifically orals, things like Anadrol and D-bol can do this. If you're using so much Anadrol that you have no appetite and you're not able to get enough food down to be in a calorie surplus, you're not going to grow. That drug is exclusively giving you side effects without hardly any results because you're not eating enough food to grow. You'd be better off literally without it, or at least on a much lower dose. Despite what you might have heard on social media or read on Google or whatever, you got to keep in mind that a lot of this information is coming from wildly uneducated people. A lot of them are just dipshit meatheads that just assume more is better and they use a bunch of stuff. And guess what, guys? If you use steroids, you're going to get results, period. So if you're going to tell me, well, I did this and I got bigger muscles. Okay, cool. What I'm saying is, yeah, you'll get results doing it wrong, but you'll get just as good or better results oftentimes by using less stuff, lower doses, less compounds in some cases. So again, if I go back to the peptide thing, it's like, do you have the problem that peptide solves in the first place? Because if not, you don't need to use that peptide. Also, if you want to use peptides because they're not illegal, because of their legal status, I'm old enough and have been around long enough to remember the days of pro-hormones. And a lot of people that are on this, in this video probably don't even know what pro-hormones are because they're like incredibly outdated at this point. I don't think anyone really uses them anymore. There was, what was the one? I can't think of the name of it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Damn it. I can't think of what it was called. But anyway, some people still use it, but that's about it. But anyway, pro-hormones, people used to use pro-hormones because they were legal. It's like steroids, but it's legal. So you'd have every 15, 16, 17-year-old in America that were like running to the supplement store to buy pro-hormones. Guess what, guys? They have more side effects than steroids do, and they're not as effective. So do you want to take something that's less effective and more dangerous? Or would you rather take something that's, you're going to take a little bit of a risk, but it's actually going to work and it's not going to hurt you as much? Sometimes you just have to take stuff like that into consideration before you make a decision, and you need to be educated enough on it. And if you're not, then maybe you need to seek out guidance from someone who is. Don't just watch a TikTok video with a guy who has big traps on the screen saying, you need to take this. And this dose is what works. For who? I know guys, and I'm going to give you guys another little anecdote here. And this is all stuff, this is people who I've personally worked with. So I'm not just like hearing stories about it. I'm not going to name names because we're talking about illegal shit here, but I've worked with, I'll just use one example. Bodybuilder client that I worked with in the past and hope to work with again, hopefully soon. I don't know. We'll see. But I worked with him in the past and he was relatively young when we started and like mid-20s. And he was diagnosed with low testosterone before he had ever used any PED. He was completely natural, diagnosed with low testosterone and was put on TRT. So when he started working with, and to be clear, this dude is a genetic anomaly. He was at an unbelievable physique, hyper responder. And so he hired me and was like, all right, dude, I'm ready to start, using PEDs. I want to take this all the way. I want to turn pro, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, sick. This is going to be awesome. And I was like, he had mentioned to me that he was on the TRT. And I was like, to start off with, let's just keep your TRT dose. And then as we get through prep, we'll kind of add on some stuff alongside it. And he was like, when I said I wanted to use PEDs, dude, I don't want to just do my TRT. And I'm like, just trust me. So the first, month or so of his prep, he just stayed on his TRT. So in other words, he just was in physiological testosterone ranges and wasn't using anything. Then, I don't remember what point of his prep, we decided to throw in like, I want to say, if I remember right, it was like 200 milligrams of Masteron. Maybe it may have even been as much as 300 milligrams of Masteron. I don't remember. Which 300 milligrams of Masteron is a pretty average, I would say, probably even below average dose, depending on who you ask. Again, depending on who you ask. I know people who've taken a gram, 1,000 milligrams a week of it. So he was only on 300 milligrams of that, and that was the only other thing that we threw in probably halfway through prep. Guys, he fucking blew up. He looked unbelievable. He looked like a pro. Matter of fact, this was in 2018. So if anyone's watching, Hunter Labrada, that was the year Hunter Labrada did NPC Nationals and got his pro card. During that prep, Hunter Labrada reached out to my client, who he hadn't known. He just saw his picture circulating on the internet because he just looked so impressive, and reached out and was like, hey, what show are you doing? Anyone who's got a lot of experience at a high level in bodybuilding, when a good bodybuilder reaches out that's like in prep for a show and asks you what show you're doing randomly, it's because they're worried that you're going to do the same show as them, and they don't know for sure if they're going to be able to beat you. To be clear, Hunter Labrada definitely would have beaten my client, no question. But he looked impressive enough that Hunter Labrada reached out to him individually and asked. And he was literally using TRT, medically prescribed TRT, which just put him in physiological ranges, and 300 milligrams of Masteron. He's a hyper responder. If I went on the internet and said, all you need to look like an elite pro is 300 milligrams of Masteron, my comment section would be flooded with people like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're full of shit. That's not possible. That's not enough. You need to be doing this, 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 and this, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? That's probably true for 90% of people. But for this particular client, it wasn't. That was all he needed. And the show he did, which, by the way, was his first time competing in 4 years, he easily won the overall, slaughtered everybody in the show. And then the following year, using essentially the exact same protocol throughout his prep, he did nationals. He was only 25 when we did it, and he missed his pro card by 2 spots. And every publication that covered the show said he should have won. It was a very controversial 4th place. Every single one of them said he should have been 1st or 2nd, which would have been a pro card. On what most people would consider like TRT doses in full, like entirely. So I'm not bragging about me. I'm not even necessarily bragging about him. I'm just illustrating the point that dosages are dependent upon the individual, their response, and what they see in the way of side effects. On the converse of that, just to be clear, on the converse of that, I have a client that I'm working with right now, and I have a guy that's just a complete hard gainer. There's really no other way to put it. I have this guy eating like 4,500 calories a day, enough food that he struggles to get it all down. Like, I have like Pop-Tarts in multiple of his meals just so I can get a lot of calories with lower volume, using like simple sugars and stuff, because otherwise there's just no way he's even going to be able to finish that amount of food. And even if he did, his digestive stress would be destroyed. His digestive stress would be through the roof, trying to digest pounds and pounds of meat and potatoes and rice every day. So anyway, that's how he is. And when it comes to PED usage, if I just put him on 300 milligrams of Masteron and TRT, nothing would happen. Nothing would happen. So I have him on higher doses of stuff. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but to be clear, when I say higher doses compared to what you probably hear on the internet, it's probably a third of what's being said on the internet. But anyway, the point is, in order for him to elicit a response at all, he needs that. And we also monitor side effects. He's experiencing none. So again, typically the side effects coincide pretty well with the response. So like, if you're getting really good results on really low doses and not seeing any results, then stay on low doses. Higher doses are not necessarily going to make you grow anymore. And if you do, it would be very, very minimally more. And then you're going to start experiencing the side effects that make it not worth it. On the converse of that, if you're seeing a lot of side effects already, then your response to that drug better be high, because if not, then there's the cost benefit analysis there. If all you're seeing is like really like high amounts of, side effects without a whole lot of response from the drug, you're just not going to respond well, unfortunately. And it's not a matter of let's just try this drug instead or this drug, because they all essentially work through the same mechanisms of action for the most part. You know what I mean? What I mean by that is, if you're using Masteron and not getting great results with it, switching to Tren is not going to make any difference. If you're using Anavar and you're not getting results on it, and then you want to switch to Winstraw, it's not going to make any difference. If it does, it's going to be incredibly minimal. The first things that need to come into play are proper nutrition, optimal training, and that could mean a lot of different things: proper execution, training to failure, appropriate volume, blah, blah, blah. That's not what this video is really supposed to be about, but you get the point. And if you're doing all that, and then you're also using PEDs, then you have to determine the cost benefit analysis of the side effects. If you're not seeing any and you're getting great results, stay there. Don't push it until you see side effects. Just stay there, because using more isn't necessarily going to give you that much better results, if at all. But if you're taking higher and higher doses of stuff and seeing higher and higher amounts of side effects as a result of it, and the results that you're getting from the drug aren't really making that much of a difference, then you just need less of it. Sometimes less is literally more. Sometimes you will get better overall results as a result of using less stuff. And I know that's hard to wrap your head around. It's the same way with training. It's sometimes the same way with food. If you're overeating your calories so much, you're in such a calorie surplus that your digestion is fucked up, you're gaining a bunch of body fat, it's impairing your ability to sleep properly, then you need to eat less. And guess what? You'll grow more as a result of eating less. That's a thing. As a matter of fact, it's an unbelievably common thing, by the way. That's probably the most common thing I've ever seen in bodybuilding, is people overeat in their off seasons. And then they get on social media and hear some big doofus bodybuilder saying, "You're not eating enough. You need to eat more. You should be blending up chicken and rice and cramming it down if you really want to grow." That's the dumbest fucking advice I've ever heard in my entire life. The biggest problem in bodybuilding by far is that people eat too much in their off season. And that's why most people don't grow. They just get fat. So again, sometimes the best course of action is addition by subtraction. If you're eating too much and getting fat and insulin resistant and lethargic, and your training is fucked up because of it, your lungs are giving out before your muscles giving out, etc. And then also not even taking into consideration yet the fact that you're going to have to diet really hard to get all that body fat off later, which is going to really suck. And you're probably going to lose any muscle that you did gain in that process. Eat less and you're going to grow more. I'm sorry. That's how it works. If you're taking so many PEDs that you're like a pincushion and all of your muscles are incredibly sore from injection sites and inflamed from injection sites, and you're unable to train at full capacity as a result of it, and it's impairing your ability to get enough food down, and it's impairing your ability to sleep well, take less drugs and you will grow more and get better results because you're using less of it. And then you don't have that inflammation. You don't have that stress on your body. You are able to train at full capacity. You are able to sleep. You are able to get food down. Those things matter way the fuck more than the drugs. So yeah, use less and grow more and see less side effects and live longer and have better health and grow more. I'm sorry, guys, but if you're reading or if you're seeing shit on TikTok that are saying you need to be using a gram of test and a gram of tren and 15 IUs of growth hormone and insulin all the time and whatever, it's like, by the way, that what I just described would be considered a pretty moderate dose compared to what a lot of people are doing. And it's insane what I just said. So anything beyond that's even crazier. That's not the answer. And to be honest with you, some people can do that. You know what I mean? Like, there are people who can use high doses and get great results with it and not see super substantial side effects. Lucky them, I guess, sort of. I mean, the fact of the matter is those people probably would respond just as well to a lot less of the drugs, and in which case I would say do that. But if you're not that person, you're not going to become that person, so don't try to force it, because you're playing a very dangerous game that can lead to hospitalization or death or an early end to your bodybuilding career. Hopefully that's the worst of it. That's technically what happened to me. I don't know that, PEDs definitely didn't help the process. It wasn't that. It was, my sleep apnea caused my AFib. But again, bodybuilding, PEDs helped me get bigger and build more muscle. And as a result of that exacerbated my sleep apnea, because I was just bigger and heavier. Then the sleep apnea led to AFib, which led to me having to retire early. So PEDs definitely didn't help, but they weren't the direct cause or anything. So anyway, but I've seen this firsthand experience on it myself. Me too, dude. And again, a lot of the stuff I'm saying comes from experience. I've used high doses of stuff in the past. I've used compounds that I would never recommend to anybody else, and regretted it. Like, I don't know if anyone on here is familiar with DNP or heard of it. It's not very popular anymore. People have kind of caught on to the fact that it's incredibly dangerous and not really worth it. It is most effective fat burner on planet Earth by far, but it is not worth the risk. At the end of the day, it kind of takes away from the whole purpose of the sport, which is to like optimize your training, nutrition, sleep, recovery, and things like that so that you can build the best physique possible. Bodybuilding is not who can take the most drugs to enhance their physique in a pharmaceutical way. So anyway, yeah, I used DNP in the past. And let me just tell you guys, I was using a very moderate dose, or at least what I assume was a moderate dose, because keep in mind, DNP is not even a drug, technically. It's not for human consumption. I know the peptide websites say that, but peptides are 100% specifically made for humans. They just have to say that as a disclaimer so they can legally sell them. DNP legitimately is just not for human consumption. It's to be honest with you, it's dynamite. It's like it's an explosive, and you can encapsulate it and consume it, and it burns an insane amount of fat, but it can also kill you. So don't ever do it. And the side effects of it are horrendous. So like, to give you guys a little bit of a backstory, when I used it, I used a pretty low dose of it, or again, what I think was a low dose. The way that it was dosed, I have no idea, because again, it wasn't made in a pharmacy. None of it is. But I was using what I assume was supposed to be a low dose, 200 milligrams, 1 week on, 1 week off. And the weeks where I was on it, this stuff raises your body temperature so much. I was using it in the winter. I was using it in the middle of January, freezing fucking cold outside. And I remember driving down the highway wearing shorts and a t-shirt, windows down, still sweating my ass off. That's how hot my internal core temperature was as a result of this drug. And you want to talk about flat? You hear bodybuilders throw around the word flat all the time. Oh, I'm pretty flat right now. You don't even know what the fuck that word even means until you've used DNP. And again, I'm going to keep saying it. Don't use it. Don't ever use it. But the flatness that I experienced with that is comical. I have pictures, progress pictures that I took right after I got done training, like chest, shoulders, and tris, like an upper body push day where you look the juiciest. I didn't even look like myself. I didn't even look like a bodybuilder. And that was the first week I was on it. My muscles were so deflated. Like if I told you my weight, which I believe was like 250 at the time, and I was relatively lean, you'd be like, you're not 250 there. There's no fucking way. I look like a soccer player because my muscles were that deflated. Now, again, it comes right back when you come off of it. The fullness comes back. But you felt terrible. Like the body temperature thing was miserable. Like I was just literally 24 hours a day sweating my ass off and miserable. And it's like, to burn some fat? Nah, dude. And then that's not even taking into consideration, things. Luckily, I didn't use it for very long, and it didn't have any impact on my blood work, at least that I know of. But it can. I mean, it can legitimately kill you. It can destroy your kidneys. So not worth it. You live and you learn. This is all stuff. This is just one of many things that I've done that was really, really stupid. And again, it's social media. Social media was a lot different back then. This was like a decade ago, so it wasn't quite the way it is now. The problem is it's so much more widespread now. Information is way more readily available now. Good information, which that's a positive thing, but there's also so much more bad information out there that you just have to know what you can and can't trust. And not everybody, despite the fact that you probably think you can, not everybody can dictate what's good and bad information. I'm here to tell you that, honestly, most of the dosages you're hearing about on social media are bad information coming from dumb people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they're giving you a one-size-fits-all circumstance. The client I was talking about a little bit ago who just used 300 milligrams of Masteron and his doctor prescribed T3 to go on and almost get his pro card, not just at any show, at NPC Nationals in the heavyweight division, or light heavyweight division. I remember, because this was the first, by the way, these were the first cycles he ever used in his entire life, prescribed by me. And I remember when I gave it to him, he was like, dude, are you sure? Like, I told a few people about this, and they were like, dude, that's not going to do anything for you. You need to be doing blah, blah, blah. And then he would list off like 4 or 5 different compounds and bigger doses. And I'm like, that's probably true for them, not for you. You're a genetic freak. You are going to optimize what we are capable of doing in this window of time using this little baby dose, and you're not going to have any health, concerns as a result of it. So do that. If you want to do what they're telling you to do, I can already tell you the outcome. You're going to get the exact same results you would have gotten just doing what I'm telling you to do, only you're going to get way more side effects. So do you want to do what they're saying for the purpose of experiencing side effects? Or do you want to just optimize the results without the side effects? The side effects that you experience from any drug, but especially PEDs that are completely self-induced, are not a badge of honor, okay? Like, I've done some dumb shit in my past, and I have, in hindsight, kind of funny stories about them, but I still regret them, and if I could go back, I wouldn't have done them. And the reason that I like to talk about this stuff sometimes on social media is to prevent you guys from making the same stupid fucking mistakes that I've made. Part of the reason I made those mistakes is because just the information wasn't available back then. And again, unfortunately, the good information is today. It's more easily available, but there's way more. You have to sift through a mile of bad information before you find one piece of good information. Good information is more readily available, and the bad information is way more readily available. So you just got to be careful with that kind of stuff. So I've got some people logged in. So why don't you guys ask some questions? I'm sure you guys have some questions about this stuff. It's PEDs and peptides, man. People love this. It's like the most hot topic on earth. So fire away with questions. And while you guys are thinking of them or typing them in and they come through, I just want to make a quick disclaimer that I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I know quite a bit through trial and error and experience and self-education. I may not have the full scope of a contextual answer for every question, but I'll do my best. Yeah, I got about 15 more minutes. So if you guys have questions, pop them in here. Or if there's just something that you'd like to hear me talk more about, it doesn't have to be a specific question. It could just be like, can you talk about blank? So I'll wait. Come on, engage. You guys are in there. I see you guys. It shows me the number. You guys are in there. Let's do it. Say something. I don't care who it is. It's not like in school where the teacher just calls on you unsolicited and you have to read in front of the whole class in person. Your little Instagram handle pops up. The other people don't even know who you are, and you're just asking me a question. I'm the one with my face on the screen actually put myself out there. So I'm asking you to put me on the spot. Not getting anything, huh? Anybody? Well, while you do that, I'll tell you guys another story. I'm hot for some reason. I'm sweat. I must be on DNP again. I'm sweating so much. It's this light. I have this, I can flip my screen around. It's that stupid light. Always makes me hot. Oh, here we go. After all you know regarding side effects, would PEDs be worth it for someone not looking to go on a show but wants to keep progressing in the gym? So that's kind of a personal choice. My opinion is if you're going to use PEDs without getting on a bodybuilding stage, the minimum effective dose thing is couldn't be more important because there's no payoff for you. And to be clear, even if you are competing, 99.9% of people who do compete in bodybuilding are never going to make a dime off of it. So your incentive, even if you are a competitor, is you might get a trophy that you're probably going to put in some room and let it collect dust for the rest of your life. It may not even be worth it for them in some cases. But if you're not competing, then there's literally no incentive other than looking better or bigger or whatever. And so I'm not going to take away from anybody's desire to get big, even if you don't want to get on a bodybuilding stage or anything like that. So if you want to get big and you've been trying for a handful of years and doing everything, working really hard and minding your P's and Q's, training hard, recovering, getting enough sleep, monitoring your nutrition properly, all this kind of stuff, and you're just not seeing the results that you would hope to see after a few years of doing it that way, I don't think there's anything wrong with using some PEDs. But I would start very low. And I would honestly, if you're a dude, especially a dude, I would legitimately start with just testosterone and a low dose of it. I'd maybe get blood work done before you do it. And make sure that I would actually definitely get blood work done before you do it. Let me rephrase that. Make sure that all of your health markers are at least real close. Some things are going to be a little bit off and it could just be a fluke. Have somebody dictate it that knows what they're talking about, and then start with testosterone and base it off of your test results. So if you're above normal ranges naturally, then just use a tiny bit of testosterone. 200 milligrams a week is all you're going to need to put you in super physiological ranges, and you're going to see super, impressive results just from that. Are you going to put on 20 pounds of muscle overnight? No, you won't under any circumstances. So continue to be patient. but it will happen faster. If you're low testosterone, then maybe minimum effective dose for you might be more than that. Maybe it's 500 milligrams a week, so that the original 250 is enough to get you into the high end of the normal ranges, or 1400 or something nanograms per deciliter, and then the other 250 is what really takes you over the top and makes you legitimately grow a lot. So that's kind of my take on that. Start low if you're going to do it at all, and I would get blood work done quarterly at least, or not at least, twice a year at least. Quarterly would probably be better. TRT clinics, legit or not? Yeah, they're legit. They're very legit. I mean, they have to go through incredible amounts of like licensing and stuff through the FDA and everything in order to be legally prescribing exogenous testosterone or any form of a hormone. So yeah, they're definitely legit. I mean, are there some that go a little beyond their scope of practice? Yeah. I mean, but like, let's be super honest. Every doctor in every hospital across America goes a little beyond their scope of practice. All of them. Your pediatrician, your child's pediatrician probably goes a little beyond their scope of practice sometimes. So, one thing that social media has done, AI has helped with a lot, the internet in general, is it's started to uncover the fact that the medical industry is not nearly as ethical as we would have thought. And that like trusting your doctor is not always, technically not even always in your best interest. Sometimes, yes, of course. They are legitimately educated. They did go to school for longer and passed tests that maybe we couldn't pass in some cases. But what they actually apply to real individuals is not always good. And their information is not always good. And sometimes they're telling you stuff that is being driven by their political views or just by their own personal preferences or whatever. So, but yes, TRT clinics are legit. Not into having your female competitors use T3 unless they need it. Can you expand on why? Yeah, I'm becoming a little bit more open to T3 usage with females. I'm still hesitant, and the reason why is mostly anecdotal. I could look this up, and I actually shockingly never really have looked up if there's any efficacy to this medically or in any form of research, but just anecdotally I've seen it on multiple occasions where coaches, not my clients, this was before I ever prescribed T3 to anybody, that I was hearing from very credible sources. I'm not going to name names. Let's just say one of the top coaches ever in the history of bodybuilding, and I had a whole long conversation about this, and he basically said to me, the three things that coaches should never prescribe to female competitors are he calls them the 3 T's: tren, testosterone, and thyroid, which you could also just call T3. And the reason, tren is obvious. Women just shouldn't be taking tren in any dose. Testosterone, they actually could if they have low testosterone and they use a very, very tiny dose to get them into normal ranges or whatever. So I don't even necessarily agree with him on that. But thyroid to T3, the reason for that is the rebound effect. Men, myself included, like I've used really high doses of T3. Like that's one where I actually, for myself, was never hesitant about using a lot of it if I, needed it down the stretch of a prep. I've done as much as, let's see, I think I've gone as high as like 125 micrograms of T3. And I think if you ask any bodybuilder, they'd be like, holy shit, that's a lot. And it is. Like, that's like the only drug that I ever really used in what would be considered high doses. And then as soon as that prep as soon as that prep ends, I could just cold turkey come off of T3, get blood work done a few weeks later, and my thyroid numbers on my blood test would just be normal, would be in normal ranges. Women oftentimes will use a moderate dose, 25 micrograms a day, 12 and a half micrograms a day, and then go get blood work done. And their T3s, they're not even just their T3, their TSH, really all the thyroid markers are completely destroyed, and they're rebounding, gaining a bunch of body fat, what I mean by that, rapidly. So I've just seen women that have just, and to be clear, a lot of them had struggled to get their thyroid function back after the fact too. And again, that goes back to everything I was saying in the beginning of this video, which is It might help you get T3 might help you get lean, but at what cost? If you're going to use T3 and it helps you get lean, but then the minute you stop taking it, your thyroid function is trashed, and now you're just gaining a bunch of body fat from it, it wasn't worth using that T3. And there are other mechanisms. There are other drugs that you can use, and there's other things that you can do that aren't drug related at all that can help you get lean. So, but I am coming around a little bit more. I'm learning a little bit more about the thyroid and how it functions and stuff like that, and things that can cause thyroid dysfunction. And sometimes using a little bit of T3, whether you're a male or a female, is actually a good way to go. But again, it's a case-by-case basis. So I don't want to sit here and say women can take 25 micrograms of T3, because guess what? One woman can and have no issues whatsoever and just see nothing but benefit from it and then come off of it and have no problems. Another might get really lean with it, which is cool, but then the minute she comes off of it, rebounds so tremendously that she gains back more body fat than she had in the first place and then has thyroid and metabolic dysfunction the rest of her life. Not worth it for that one. So there is no blanket example of how much a male or a female should use. It's case by case, dose dependent, based on your individual genetic response. So that's my answer to that one. Anybody else got anything? I'm going to hop off here pretty soon. If people have more questions, I can go another 5 minutes or so, and then I got to get a couple other things done, and then I have a call. Anybody got anything? I'm going to give you guys like, I don't know, 30, 45 seconds to ask a couple more questions. This light is making me sweat my ass off. I can't wait to turn this light off. But look at what it looks like when I turn it off. It sucks. I can't even see me. Watch. Well, you can, I guess, but I'm just like a lot darker and makes me look old or something. I don't know. I'm turning it. Okay. Anything else? Anybody got anything else? Somebody. I know you guys have questions. I know you guys are just sitting there watching me sit here doing nothing, wondering to yourself, what else is he going to say about PEDs? Well, you can determine what else I say about PEDs by putting a question or a topic or something in that little box on the bottom of your screen. Somebody do it. I love it. It's like more people log in and I'm telling every individual say something and they're all like looking and waiting for the first person to say something. And then nobody says anything. And then I just sit here like a dickhead for no reason. Beginner peptides. Wait. What are your thoughts on sermorelin? I don't have any experience with it. I don't know much about it. I know it's a GH secretagogue, so it's going to make you produce more growth hormone. That's the thing. Almost anything with morelin at the end of it, or morelin, however you want to pronounce it, they're pretty much all GH secretagogues. So my opinion on all of them, because I don't know a ton, I don't really know a lot of the nuance between one and the other, but they're all going to release growth hormone or help you produce more of it. My main take, and I'm not saying that they're not good, because I think they are. I think there's benefits to all of them. Actual human growth hormone is probably going to be better. They're all essentially trying to mimic what human actual HGH, recombinant 191 amino acid human growth hormone does. And there's this virtually no the only notable side effect from human growth hormone is slightly elevated blood glucose, which you'll probably experience the same thing with any one of the, sermorelin, ipamorelin. Again, I don't know how you pronounce those, morelin or morelin. Anyway, there's tesamorelin. There's a bunch of those. And I think all of those are going to raise your blood sugar a little bit too. So my honest opinion is just regular HGH is probably better. It's probably going to give you more of a significant result. But I don't know enough to really give you like an in-depth analysis of that specific one. Beginner peptide stack, again, it's going to depend on the individual and what are you trying to accomplish with it? Are you trying to get, build muscle? Are you trying to get leaner? How much are you eating? How much, what's your training split? Like there's too many different individual specifics that I would need to be able to give you a peptide stack. And keep in mind, peptides do such a wide array of different things that I just need to know what problem we're solving before I recommend a stack, because there is no beginner stack. It's just, for me, like my knees are fucked up. My knees are really fucked up. And BPC 157 was my beginner stack. And that's going to do nothing for muscle building or fat burning. All that one's going to do is reduce the inflammation and help the healing properties of the joints and ligaments. And it did tremendously. And guess what? It's allowed me to get back to training legs as hard as I've always wanted to, and stuff like that. So it's benefited me in that way. I've probably built more muscle as a result of actually being able to train as hard as I want to, because I'm not in so much pain anymore. But that I had a problem, knee pain. PC 157 and TB 500 addressed that pain, and therefore that was the stack that made the most sense for me. If you want to build muscle, MK 677 or 667. That's the other thing about these goddamn peptides, man, is they have the most complicated names. Steroids have weird enough names, but these peptides are like, oh, take Alea-4732522.1. Anyway, yeah, MK667, I think, or is it 677? I always forget. I get them mixed up. That one would probably be pretty good. Samorelin would probably be pretty good. If you're trying to lose body fat, one of the GLP-1s might be the way to go, like retatrutide. Best way to help with cortisol. When it comes to cortisol, I wouldn't use any drug to try to reduce cortisol. I think you're most likely going to experience higher cortisol levels as a result of, you're probably going to either break even with the same amount of cortisol from using a drug, or it's going to elevate your cortisol. So and there may be peptides, there may be certain drugs out there that do help reduce cortisol, but I would definitely do things that don't involve any form of a drug to help reduce cortisol. Sleep would be the number one thing that I would go after. So like improve sleep quality. Magnesium glycinate will help with improving sleep quality. And if you do that, it's probably going to reduce your cortisol. Not looking at screens before you go to bed for a certain amount of time might help with cortisol production. Sometimes just eliminating dipshits from your life, probably the most effective way. There's a lot of people who are in your life and they maybe always have been in your life, and therefore you just assume they're always going to be there and that they have to be. And sometimes it's like, no, you can just not talk to them anymore. You can block people on it. I bet you there's 5 people off the top of your head that you could just go on Instagram right now and block, and I guarantee you it'll reduce your fucking cortisol. Yeah, no one ever thinks about that. Everyone's like, what drug can I use to help with this? It's like sometimes all you got to do is just like block people on social media and your cortisol will go right down. But yeah, there's like other steps that are not PED related that I would recommend for reducing cortisol. And if you're talking about mitigating cortisol as a result of using PEDs, then I go back to what I was saying earlier, which is maybe you just need a lower dose of the PEDs causing the cortisol, the elevated cortisol. Like I said, it's the addition by subtraction, you know? It's Justin Mahaley was talking about this the other day, and I commented on the story and we talked about it a little bit. He was talking about peak week. Totally off, not different topic, but he was talking about peak week, and he's like, sometimes it's not a matter of what do we need to add to increase the peak. Sometimes it's what should we take away to improve the peak. It's not about we need to eat more and eat more and eat more. Maybe it's we need to reduce the cardio. Maybe it's we need to reduce the training. Do we ever think about that? Like training depletes muscles. And if we're trying to fill muscles out by eating more, maybe we don't need to eat more. Maybe we need to train less. You can fill out by not training. No one ever thinks about that. That's why I was so excited. I literally, I commented, he made the post and said that, and he had really good things to say. And my comment on the post was just 2 eggplants, because it's true. It's like sometimes the best course of action to improve something is to take something away. So again, when it comes to cortisol, sometimes it's reducing something, not adding something else. I've said a million times, I've made posts about it. If you're taking a drug to mitigate the side effects of another drug, guess what? Just don't take either fucking drug. Or maybe just reduce this drug, and then you don't need this one to combat the side effects of this one. We don't need to keep adding new drugs. That's the pharmaceutical industry, by the way, guys. The pharmaceutical industry is all about, okay, you have some kind of a problem. Here's a drug to fix it. It's going to cause 6 other problems. And if you have those, then you're going to need these 6 drugs to combat the problems caused by this one. And then if these 6 drugs cause 6 more side effects each, now you're going to need whatever the fuck that I'm already lost on that math. All of these drugs to fix all of the side effects caused by the 6 drugs fixing the side effects from this one drug that's fixing the one thing that you had wrong with you. And maybe that one thing could have been fixed with your nutrition or better sleep hygiene or moving your ass a little bit more or something like that. Like there's a lot of things that we can fix without any drugs. And sometimes trying to fix something with a drug that doesn't require a drug just causes a bunch more side effects that require more drugs to fix those. And then the next thing you know, you're doing 500 goddamn drugs. And the root of all of it is because you were trying to improve your cortisol, which could have been done by getting another hour of sleep a night. I just saved you about a lifetime supply of $1 million that you would have spent in your lifetime worth of drugs by just telling you get another fucking hour of sleep, dude. That's what we're naming any babies we have. Wait, what? What are we naming any babies? Which I said a lot of strange words that could be used as names for our babies. Anyway, I'll wait for Alina to tell me what we're gonna name our babies after what drugs or whatever. And yes, that's no problem at all. I appreciate you engaging. Any other questions? I'm hopping off here in 30 seconds if nobody asks a question. And if you do, it'll be the last one. So everybody all at once, hop in there and ask. Because I have a call in 30 minutes and I still got a peptide sounding names and number. Oh yeah. Oh boy. Excuse me. Name our daughter Sir Morlin. Anybody got anything? I'm popping off, man. Anybody else? But I do appreciate everybody getting on. There's, a pretty good amount of engagement. You like that Sir Morlin thing, didn't you? Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for engaging. I appreciate it. It was a blast. Next Friday? Yeah, I'll be in town. I'm going to go live every Friday afternoon, unless I'm traveling. I just have 2 more shows to be at this year, and then we're done until March. Just found out today I got a client doing the Arnold, so I'll be in Ohio in March for that. Cannabis use in muscle building. We got one at the last second. I'll touch on this for just a second because this I do know about. I do have a lot of experience with, and then I'm going to hop off here. It's not going to be a long answer anyway. Cannabis use in muscle building. There's zero research that would show that it has any negative effects. Using cannabis is certainly not going to impair your ability to build muscle. It doesn't interfere really in any kind of a way with anything fat loss or muscle building related. The one thing that's really obvious is obviously if you're going to smoke weed, you're probably going to get hungrier and it might make it a little bit harder to stay in a calorie deficit. It's never been a problem for me. I do get hungrier, but it's worth it to me to just have to, grin and bear it with the hunger and just stick to my plan, despite the fact that I would prefer to eat more. But other than that, it's not going to hurt muscle building at all. It's not going to help either. Like, let me be clear. It's not a performance enhancing drug, but I like to sometimes train. I like to smoke right before I train, and I feel like a really positive connection with the muscle. Do I think that that's going to help me build more muscle? No, I don't, but it does feel good. It just like legitimately in the moment, mentally and physically just feels good when I feel like I can mentally connect with the muscle a little bit more, and I just like it. I also train here in my private gym by myself. There's no one else around. I choose the music and the volume of the music and the lighting, and I don't have to speak to anybody or anything like that. So I'm in kind of unique circumstances, but I'm a big fan of cannabis, huge fan of cannabis. And I like to smoke before I train sometimes, not always, sometimes. And if you like it, do it. And to be honest, dude, a lot of my answers to a lot of questions, fitness related questions, if I'm just being 100% transparent and answering the questions to the true best of my ability, if you like it, do it. If you don't like it, don't do it. And some things are literally that simple. Intermittent fasting. If you like it, do it. If you don't like it, don't. Fasted cardio. If you like it, do it. If you don't like it, don't. There you go. It's that simple. Weed. Do you like it? Smoke it. If you don't. That's the answer with a lot of things, to be honest with you. If you enjoy it, it's convenient for you, it fits into your daily schedule, it doesn't provide a bunch of resistance and you enjoy it, do it. If it's going to hurt you, then don't. But if it's going to help you and you like it, do it. If you're going to break even, it's not going to make any difference, but you like it, do it. Some things are literally that easy, and I think a lot of people like complex answers to things because if they're failing, the complexity gets to be the culprit, right? Like people love to assume that fitness requires like militant waking up at 4:00 in the morning and running a half marathon before you have breakfast and taking this XYZ drug that's really expensive and eating organic food from organic food markets that you don't necessarily have access to, and all this crazy ice baths and all this goofy shit. And they're like, well, the reason I'm not in shape is because I can't do this, and this. And it's like, you don't need any of that. You need none of that. Do those things help you? Some do, some don't. Some actually hurt you. The fact of the matter is, do you like it, and does it fit into your schedule conveniently? Because if so, and it doesn't hurt you, then do it. A sauna. Do you like it? Do it. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't necessarily help you. But if you like it, do it. Massage. It's not going to make your muscles grow faster. It's not going to make you recover better. It's not going to do any of that. Do you like massage? I assume you probably do. Get massages. Foam rolling. All kinds of research on foam rolling shows it doesn't really have any impact on recovery or performance or anything. But do you like it? I do. So I do. So anyway, that's my response. That's all I got for today. I appreciate you guys stopping in. And, for those of you who engaged in the chat, I really appreciate that. So again, every Friday that I'm not traveling, I will be doing these. Please log in and engage like this, because it gives me the ability to yap more and get more awesome content that I can put out for everybody. So thanks again. I'll see you next week.